Welcome back to a double dose remedies for the soul. We appreciate you joining us for our second episode, our first official episode. Look at you caring about your mental health. We're glad to have you. My name is Tierra,
I'm Brittany.
and we are just gonna talk and vibe out, and let's dive in. What is
Yeah,
our topic for today?
relationships, like in all forms. Exactly. So, have you watched Ready to Love before? It comes on.
Yes, like the first season. I don't even think I finished it.
Okay, so this is basically a show where like black successful elite like women and men date each
Mhm.
other, whatever. This season I was watching, and so one of the females who's interested in a guy was meeting with him and his sister.
Mhm.
So she mentioned that one like guaranteed like need from her partner is therapy before like getting to the point of we want to get engaged or marriage. Like she requires therapy in the initial stages of dating. The sister was like, red flag, what do you need therapy for? You shouldn't have therapy if there's no problems.
Mhm. The man sister.
The man's sister, and he agreed with her though, so it must be a family thing. But like, I feel like you should have therapy before
Yeah.
problems or before marriage.
Yes, because therapy is not it's not something that you do. It's like it's a preventative measure. You
Yeah.
know, you don't have to go to therapy only when there's something already wrong.
Mm-hmm.
You should be pursuing therapy, as a preventative measure to like make sure that you don't end up in a
Yeah.
place where you feel like there's something already wrong and then you want to pursue
Yeah.
help,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
And is the sister in the marriage? Are we doing sister wives? I'm confused as to
Exactly.
why you felt so liberated to
Exactly.
have such an opinion.
And that's why I was just like, I feel like therapy is needed. Like personally, I would want therapy in a relationship because you guys are trying to figure out like communication styles, love languages, or whatever the case
Mm-hmm.
may be on how to better love each other and be with each other before the drama problems come. But
Mm-hmm.
this is the same thing people do in their regular lives too without a partner. Wait until shit blows up to be like, oh, I want to go seek therapy, right?
Mm-hmm.
But that's just even, I know how they used to require counsel from like the pastor for a certain amount of time before you even get married,
Mm-hmm.
right? They don't require that no more, but I feel like it still should be a thing.
Mm-hmm. And maybe if it was a thing, we could, decrease this divorce rate because, it's been 50% for like decades. And I wonder what it is now. I need to
Exactly.
look that up.
No, for real.
But yeah. So, I mean, I also feel like I would need counseling, but I like, how do you go about pursuing finding a counselor
Exactly.
with your partner who you like
Exactly.
just decided to marry?
Exactly. Like you're in a relationship, you guys are probably in beginning, middle stages, loving the honeymoon stage. Um, and then you guys gotta essentially figure out how to jump in another relationship, which is like entering therapy because you have to figure out, all right, what's the therapist that's gonna work for us? Like literally entering therapy is entering a relationship.
That's crazy because I didn't think about it like that.
For
I
real.
had always thought about therapy as a relationship, of course,
Yeah.
because we always talk about the therapeutic relationship.
Mm-hmm.
But for you to say like you're in this relationship already with your partner and then you have to add a person to
Yeah.
that relationship, damn.
Exactly. And then like also bringing up like your needs in a therapist with your partner because that whole searching for a therapist could cause an argument in itself. I
Mm-hmm.
don't want a therapist that's going to side with you, or I don't want this, or I don't want that.
Mm-hmm.
So, what are your needs for like if you're in couples counseling for a therapist?
Well, they have to be black. They have to
Yes,
be black.
yes.
I don't see myself with any other therapist. I just need you to understand the black experience.
No, for real.
And I feel like I would want a black woman because
And I'm like, I'm semi opposite. I want black because like how those memes or Instagram posts be like, I can't date outside my race because I don't want to explain why I'm this, right? I don't want to be in therapy talking to a therapist who's not black and have to explain why I'm saying certain things. So I
mm-hmm.
need you to understand what I'm saying my experience, etc. But also, I want a male therapist, a
You know
black
what?
man.
That doesn't surprise me about you. But tell me why.
Like, I just feel like the relationships that I have with males are very good. Like friendships, family ships. Like, I don't know, I bond easier with males. I feel like it's a struggle for me to bond with females.
Mm,
I'm really laid back. I can't match a lot of females' energies because it's just like, I don't know. I be on some chill shit. Like,
mm-hmm,
yes, there's women like that, like you, like we, but I
mm-hmm,
don't know. I just do better with men. But also, like, I want to be in a room, like, with my partner and a therapist that can help me understand fully what it's like to be in a relationship with a black man. Because
mm,
I could only go as far as like either my imagination takes me or what I understand from like seeing my brothers or so forth. I feel like having a black woman as my therapist would be beautiful, but also she may understand me a little bit more than what I would want her to. I want a
mm,
challenge, because she
mm-hmm,
can't fully tell me or explain to me how certain things that I do is different from his perspective or from a
mm-hmm.
man's.
Yeah. And I feel you on the challenging part because the therapist is always supposed to challenge
Yeah.
you. And we, as people who have already gone through, years of learning how to be therapists, we're listening with a different ear when
Yeah.
we're in therapy. So I feel like we kind of have like a leg up in
Yeah.
terms of like comprehension of things and like how the brain works
Mm-hmm.
and how therapy works and stuff. So I feel you on wanting a man. I don't know if I could, you know, do a male therapist. It's just, I don't hate you guys. I love men. I love me some men. But like, I don't know. I think just because of like the the experience that I have with black men, like it gets wild out here. Like it gets so crazy out here. And so I feel like, it's hard for me to be like slice myself open and spill my guts
Mm-hmm.
to like a man. I don't
Yeah.
know, who's not my partner, or
Yeah.
not my family
Yeah.
member.
But that's the challenge. Like, you want to challenge yourself outside of what you already know. Like,
Yeah.
sometimes being too comfortable is not going to change certain patterns that you're unaware of.
I don't like that.
Imagine having like, some of us don't have relationships with our fathers or brothers or just black men in general, right? And
Mm-hmm.
some of us do. But imagine expanding the relationship that you have with a black man, because especially as black women, like, we either have only our father or only a brother like figure or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Most of our friends or who we are around are black women that we have bonding relationships with. So
Mm-hmm.
entering a therapeutic relationship, not only with your partner and then with a black male therapist, it's going to change how you view black men and how you treat them.
Yeah. See, I do a lot of like internal work
Mm-hmm.
to have, because okay, this brings up a very good conversation. So I be listening to, my different podcasts and
Uh-huh.
whatnot. And it was brought to my attention about myself, like how, like who would I protect? I protect black people,
Mm-hmm.
right? I care about us. I want to see us, grow and succeed and whatnot. And then there's just this like layer of like resentment
Mm,
because I feel like black women are so protective of us, and then we often don't receive the same from a black man.
true.
So it's like, I
Which
feel
is
like
why you
it's
need it more. You need to see that there's more black men like that.
right, right. So I need to. I feel like it's like it's more rare for me to run into a black man who I feel like genuinely cares
Yeah.
about me as a person, as a human being, rather, or as a black person, rather than like. And it's more common for me
Yeah.
to run into a black man who like, doesn't really have that level of care for
True.
me that I might have for him.
True.
Like in an extreme form, it's like I would step in front of a bullet for him, but he would not for me.
No, that's true. I feel like black women for years like have always been the protectors of males, black males,
Mm-hmm.
black children, black women. Like that's like when you talk about feminism,
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of black women, I don't know, like I know a lot of black women be like, I'm not a feminist, I'm a like
A womanist. It's
a
a womanist.
womanist, and there's other forms for black feminism.
I know.
Why can I
I
recall right
know.
now?
I
But
know.
um it's basically being black before you're a woman,
Mm-hmm.
right? So being a feminist essentially is protecting all women, et cetera, no matter race. But that's not true all the
Mm-hmm.
time. So for black women, we often are black first. We
Mm-hmm.
protect the black body, the black souls, the black people before we then protect black women, you
Mm-hmm.
know, and because we are the ones that bear the kids and stuff like that. But I don't know, I think essentially that whole aspect of just having a black therapist as a black couple walking into the room will
Mm-hmm.
get these messages across on
Mm-hmm.
why I'm treating you like your mother, or why certain things are happening, because I have this need to protect you.
Yeah.
Like when you walk out those doors,
Mm-hmm.
or when you come in and didn't check in with me throughout the day, like why I went into panic mode.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I feel like a black woman therapist will relay that well. But I don't know. I feel articulate enough to be able to relate to my partner that. But I want a black male to be able to help relay the male side.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
I feel what you're saying. And that also makes me like, do you think that you could do therapy with a non-black person?
Yeah, you know it's crazy. I I don't know. Because okay, I had earlier in the year I was like, a visionary therapy, did therapy, would I get a white lady?
How old was she?
She sounded like she was in her 30s.
Okay, all
like
right.
so she was very validating. Oh my gosh, you're so strong, you're very aware of what and I'm like, yeah, no. But my problem, I ghost people. So the way I treat people in relationships, or like if we're in that talking phase, like I will block you, I will go ghost. Like,
oh my god,
I do that to my therapist. So instead of being an adult and having a conversation of, look, this isn't working out for me, I just stopped like communication with her. So that was a struggle. But like, I think if I was to sit there and have a therapist that was outside of my race, I still want them to be, I need them to be a part of my community. Like whether if they not black and I have to work with someone who's outside my race, like I need them to at least be a part of my community, LA, know what I grew up with. And that's just like my measurements, you know? I don't know.
I feel like you said, entering therapy is entering a relationship, because you're opening up yourself, you're spatchcocking yourself to this person to show them all of your innards, all of, your vulnerabilities, and you're sharing things that you would probably never say out loud. And to me, it's like, I can't do that with a person who's not black, because we as black people live a very particular life experience and nobody will understand it unless you're living it. And as much empathy as you have learned in school and whatnot, I just don't feel like there's any book, any article that you could read that could give you the level of empathy that I, as a black woman, would need.
Yeah. No, I definitely agree, but I think that's why, like, knowing your criteria before entering therapy is essential. And like for people like us, it's, I need someone black. I need you to understand my experience. Because that's one less thing that we have to dive into. I mean, yes, we're going to touch bases because not everybody's black experience is the same, but at least that could be later on down the line, or that could be as we go.
Yeah. This this reminds me of my friend Lindsay. Hey girl, how are you? Thanks for tuning in. She's she's a white woman, and so we were sitting here watching Legendary on HBO Max. Have you ever seen that show? Okay,
so you introduced me to it.
Oh, did I? Look at me. HBO Max sponsored me. So yeah, we were watching Legendary, and Meg Thee Stallion is a judge, and And so, Meg, her wigs be laid for the
Mhm.
gods. And so I said, damn, you'll never catch Meg wig blacking. And I looked at her and I was like, did you just understand what I said? And she was like, no. And I was like, were you going to ask me? And she said, no. And I was like, it means, that her wig always looks good, like
Mhm.
with what lace. So it's just like, I don't want to be in the middle of, a rant or like, talking about some deep stuff.
Yeah.
And then I say something in AAVE and like my therapist looks at me like, like
Yeah.
I don't have time for that.
So you're not comfortable working with a therapist who is outside your race. Are you comfortable working with clients outside of your race?
Ooh, yes. You know what? I feel like this is about to be so contradictory. I feel like as okay, so like I was saying before about like black men and women, black women, are taught from a very young age, damn near birth,
Yeah.
to consider everybody, to consider everybody's opinion, everybody's perspective. And then I feel like when you enter grad school for therapy, that consideration is just furthered.
Yeah.
It's as opposed to like other demographics, they are just now learning in school at like 20 something how to be considerate of other people
Yeah.
and their like perspectives.
Yeah.
And so I like to think about myself as like somebody who never likes to place anyone in a box, no matter
Yeah.
what they look like. If I think I know their sexual orientation, it's just safer to not assume.
Yeah.
So I think I've worked like all these years on having a non assuming mindset. So
Mhm.
yeah, I think that like, like when we entered our practicum, I was really disappointed by the lack.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's all one general population and I feel like it's like kind of doing us a disservice because when we get out there in, the therapeutic world, we're not only going to have one demographic of
Yeah.
clients.
Yeah.
So it's important that we right now at our foundation get in some good work
Yeah.
with people of all walks of life, of all demographics, of all classes, of
Yeah.
all, race, colors, and creeds and
Yeah.
whatnot.
No, 100%. And I also feel like you said, like kind of, we're in practical where we're working mainly with one demographic. I feel comfortable working with those of other races and stuff. And like, it may be important to the client when they work with us if we're black or not. It may be important.
Mm-hmm.
And I have those conversations with my clients because if it's important to me, it's important to you. To some people, it's not important
Mm-hmm.
but I do feel like there has to be some base of understanding, similarity, shared experience, or something. And I think that's what most people look for. Like, are they going to understand me on some platform?
Yes.
And I think like where you grew up or were raised at also plays a role on how you, one, look for a therapist or what you need in a therapist, and for two, how we conduct ourselves as therapists. Because
Mm-hmm.
yeah, like of course we grew up around, having black family members, black friends, but also those who are Latino or just
Mm-hmm.
of other like backgrounds, so we have similarities or shared experience. And I think that's important when working with people of other backgrounds as well. It's like
Mm-hmm.
we understand you to some point, and
Yes.
if we don't, it's not your job to educate us as the
Mm-hmm.
therapist, because
Mm-hmm.
we don't want to add a extra responsibility when we're supposed
Mm-hmm.
to be helping you take that load off.
Right. But you know what? I have to disagree with you
Yeah.
because like just the last thing that you said, like it's not their job to educate us because no matter how much of a shared experience we might have with that person, we might have grown up, across the street from one another,
Mm-hmm.
but we could have still experienced such different
No,
lives.
yeah, yeah.
So like I feel like if the client doesn't mind, if it's not a burden to them to explain certain things to me, then like I would love to learn.
Yeah, I see that. I love that. Like
Mm-hmm.
I ask clarifying questions. Like I try to get an understanding. And of course, like no matter what, you and your therapist should be hitting backgrounds and how you grew up. But I'm talking about besides that, there's certain things that like you shouldn't put that job on your client to educate you about everything about their culture. So that's what I mean. Like when
You
you
have to have
realize,
some level of awareness.
yes, that's
Some
what I
level.
mean. And at some point you have to continue, like, let me go and do exploring myself, in addition to what they're telling me.
Yes.
Because that's not going to be your only run in,
Yes.
So that's taken into consideration that, like, going into the therapeutic relationship, a relationship with your therapist, whether it's one-on-one or with a partner, there may be things that do not correlate. Like, there may be things you have to explain to them, It's just, how comfortable are you if you want to explain your whole goddamn life and you like, okay, I don't need someone of the same race. Or, I don't have time to be explaining everything. I need somebody of the same race. Check that off your box, as what I'm looking for as a therapist. What's some other things? Oh, approach. We mentioned that. Like, is that something you need? Location, of course.
If it's in person or online these days, because it could be either or.
I do not like online. I don't.
I've never experienced in person, so I only know online.
Yeah, I haven't. I ruled out a lot of therapists because of online. For some people, their home is not always private.
Yes.
That's important because you don't want everybody knowing what's going on in your sessions. But for me, like, I've associated a lot of, like, my headaches, or, like, sometimes I brought work or school so much to home to where home became, like, stressful. And I'm working on that now to kind of, like, reverse that. But I don't want to have therapy at home either. I don't want to associate therapy with at home. So I need in person, to where, like, I'm out of that space and I need an additional comfort zone. That's my requirement.
I feel that. I understand what you're saying, and it's funny because I never thought about that. Just the fact that not everybody, like, gets to live alone like I do, and, like, has a peaceful environment to have therapy in. Because when I was living at home with my parents, I didn't tell my parents at first that I was, like, in therapy, and that's what I was doing on the computer after school. I was telling them that I was just, like, in grad school meetings, because neither of them have ever been to grad school, so they don't know, like, the structure of whatever. So I was just telling them that I was in meetings, and because I felt like if I had told them that I was in therapy, then they might have, like, tried to hear what I was saying or asked me what I was talking about. It's gonna be like, you girl, and I don't want to have. They gonna
look. We doing this podcast in the hood because we providing services to the hood.
Look,
okay, so you gonna hear a lot of shit back there,
and you gonna shut up about it. But yeah, I just didn't tell them that I was in therapy because I needed the privacy.
Yeah.
So yeah, but I didn't think about that. Like you were saying, like, the level of privacy is different for everybody.
Yeah. So I just think, like, altogether, those are certain things, like, to take into consideration when finding a therapist. And I didn't know that in the beginning. Like you said, before we got into this field, you are more afterwards you are more particular about what you want as a therapist. So this is just like an insight of, when you enter therapy, all therapists are not going to be the same. They're all not going to be for you. It's going to take sometimes that second, third, or fourth find for you to figure out, this therapist works for me.
Yeah.
But just understanding the process of breaking up with your therapist. Like, if you do come to the realization that after the third, fourth, or whatever session, and you've already addressed that, this, I feel uncomfortable with this, or this doesn't work for me, and nothing has changed, it's okay to break up with your therapist. Like, where we understand, and that's something we learn as therapists too, that, like, your client may not feel like you're the best fit for them, not to take it personal, So it's okay if you let them know you can. Don't be like me and just ghost them. But just let them know that you want to seek services elsewhere.
Yeah.
And it might bring that nervousness and jitterness or stress when you break up with your partner.
Yeah.
So,
because some people try, several times to break up with a partner or break up with a therapist, and every time is just like, oh, she's so nice, oh, he's so nice, and it's like, next time, I'll do it next time.
Yeah.
And then like before you know it, you're in therapy with them for 6 months, going nowhere.
Exactly. So make sure you're benefiting. Therapy is at least one of the places you could be the most selfish.
Yes.
Like it should benefit
It's a one-sided relationship.
It should benefit you all around. And understanding like please don't go into therapy and thinking like, okay, I'm going to feel better by next month. Like it doesn't work. And I know like this sounds cliche, but it may get worse before it gets better.
Yes.
You guys are going to be exploring a lot, you know, and if you feel like topics that they're bringing up or things they're pointing out is making you uncomfortable and you're not sure to dig there yet, be vocal in that too. You know, transparency is important. And like how you communicate with your friends or family or whatever is going to be different in the room with your therapist because that's where you're going to exercise your communication skills the most.
Yeah. And it's much easier said than done because like for me personally, I will shit myself if I have to confront someone.
Yeah.
So like I will have all of the things to say in my mind, but to get it to come out of my lips though as words is impossible. So it like when I had to break up with my second therapist, who was like an older white woman, I was like, it took at least 2 sessions for me to work up the courage to even say anything. And then like I felt even worse when I did break up with her because she was like, oh, well, I felt like, you know, we were doing good work together and blah, blah, blah. And I was like at that point, I had been like 2 years deep in school. And I was like, I don't feel like that's something that you should say because you don't know how hard it might be for me to have said that in the first place. And so for you to meet me with that, like, oh, I'm going to miss you. I wish you didn't do that.
Yeah.
Like makes it less likely that if the next therapist I run into I need to break up with, I'm going to be even more hesitant to break up with her because of the reaction that I got from you. So if you're breaking up with your therapist, you should never have to fear if they're going to be like, oh, I'm going to miss you or like, you know, whatever. You're not breaking up with your nail tech. You're not breaking up with your hairstylist. You know, that's a very different relationship than a therapist. A relationship with your therapist should be very one-sided. It should be beneficial to you and not to them. So, you know, of course they should want to get better as a clinician on their own, but like you as a client are not there to provide any kind of service to the therapist.
And I think like naturally, and I think like as you said, you shouldn't worry about them saying, oh, I'm going to miss you. At some point that may come though, if you stick with your therapist through the long run and you've met your goal in therapy and it's time for termination. It's kind of time for your therapist to break up with you because they're like, I see you've made progress. You've reached your goal. We're here just talking at this point and it's not going nowhere. I think it's time for us to end, right? That may be a point of transparency where you're going to feel like a little empty and you're going to express to them how you feel about that, but also they may like validate that and be like, look, I enjoyed our sessions too. And it may be a struggle, but it's time, you know? So that's another form of breaking up is when you do find your therapist who do put in the work and you're able to grow.
Yeah. Because when you get used to therapy and you go like every week, because there are a lot of therapists who don't even offer like a bi-weekly option. You have to go every week. So if you've been going every week for like 6 months, a year, 2 years, 3 years, the first week, like when you think about, you start to tailor your life around like, man, like, okay, personally, when I'm having like a disagreement with my partner, I'll be like, you know what? Can we have this conversation after I have my therapy session on Tuesday? Because I want to like run my thoughts by her so that she can like filter them out for
routine.
Me. Yes, so it becomes part of your routine.
It's gonna feel empty. What do I do? But your therapist will prepare you for that. It won't be a blunt, there you go,
right,
toss you out. Like, no, throughout each session you've been building up towards that. You've been working towards that. You are going to be more independent, right? But it's just also like just going back to the couples in therapy too. If you're a couple and you're in therapy, what if you guys decide by the end of treatment that you and your partner no longer want to be together? You know, like understanding that going into therapy as well as a couple, I feel like people may go in with the expectations of they're going to make our relationship better, we're going to be together, but like you just may end up walking out realizing like we're just not meant to be, whether it's like we could be friends like I said or not, but you may walk out of therapy as part going in as partners and coming out
separated.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the misconception about couples therapy is that we're here to like glue you guys back together, and that's not the thing. We're here to figure out what's best for both parties, and what's best for both parties might just be to go their separate ways.
Yeah.
In order to be happy.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Okay, so next segment is our Let's Be Honest segment.
All right.
Tell us.
Wait, what is our
what
Let's
are
Be
we
honest?
Life coaching and therapy is not.
Yes.
Yeah.
Let's be honest. Going to a therapist is nothing like talking to your friends or going to a life coach. Yes, life coaches have certain certifications. Yes, your friends do know you very well. But the difference is going to a therapist means that you're going to a person who has had years of clinical training, years of book training in order to learn how to be an objective person who doesn't know you from Adam, you from Eve, or you from Steve. And that can be a very valuable tool getting to know someone from the ground up. So, yeah.
Yeah. Your therapist isn't here to give you advice. That's something your friends do, and their advice is coming from their own life experience or whatever the case may be. Your therapist is going to be there to tailor treatment to your life experiences and how to maneuver through life from what you know, right? So yeah, your friends or the life coach advice may be good here and there, but then it also just may not work for you, and that's because it's not therapy, right?
Yes. The difference is that, like you said, we're not here to give advice. We're here. One of our professors used to always say that our job as therapists is to help you not need us anymore.
Yes.
And if you're just going to your friends or your life coach with, different life scenarios, yeah, they can give you advice that will give you short-term help with that scenario. But when you go to a therapist, you are getting tools to put in your toolbox to carry with you for the rest of your life.
Exactly. Love it. So that's the end of Let's Be Honest. Our other segment is we're providing resources for the Black people.
This segment is called Let Me Put You On.
Let Me Put You On. So there's a place in LA. So they're located Huntington Park, Florence, and on Avalon. If I'm not mistaken, and it's called the Black Vision. So we'll actually tag them and put their ads. So this is not a partnership or anything. We're doing our own research to help you all in the community find treatment. So they actually offer treatment, dental, physical, counseling, and career services, and so much more through a Black centered approach for Black individuals specifically. They take Medi-Cal, which I know many people have, and usually it isn't paired with services that they feel like is good enough for them. So when we talk about needing a Black therapist, this is a place that you may really want to look into or go. They do yoga, they do substance abuse prevention, psychoeducation, and treatment. Not sure if they work with families or couples, but I know they do work with individuals specifically. They have a number of things that they do. So once again, their information will be attached to the caption below for you guys to look into more.
Beautiful. That's really rare that a place that has anything but physical services takes Medi-Cal.
Yeah.
So that's a great resource.
Yeah. So those different offices, if I'm not mistaken, that I listed, some offer dental, some offer physical, and then they do have, like I said, the substance abuse prevention, therapy, and stuff like that. And it's all through a Black centered approach, Black experiences, Black trauma, and stuff like that. That's how their treatment is dedicated or catered to you as the individual. So I definitely encourage you all to look more into it. I'm still diving into what all they like offer.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And last but not least, our Surgeon General's warning. This podcast is not a substitution for a relationship with a therapist. Please, if you feel as though you need it or as a preventative measure, please go seek your own therapy. There is therapyforblackgirls.com, therapyforblackboys.com, therapy for black men. There's openpathcollective.org.
Mhm.
Please go seek your own therapy as well as listen to our podcast. Add
Yes.
us as a daily vitamin, if you will, a supplement.
Yes. Thank you again for tuning in and keeping up with us, and following our journey as we figure out this podcasting and as we embark on our careers of
Yeah.
being like amazing black therapists.
Yes.
Speaking in. But thank you for tuning in. We
Yeah.
appreciate you.
We appreciate you. Thanks, guys. See you next time.
Bye.